Tar. It's a little bit hard to be ironic about Tar. I genuinely believe that out of all of the films nominated for the Best Picture at the Oscars this year, Tar is probably, well, the bestest. Compared to half of the list, it is simply in another league. Which is an interesting thing because these Best Picture nominations actually include an evil doppelganger of Tar, Triangle of Sadness. And it kind of touches some of the similar subjects. First and foremost, the subject of power. But Tar is much more nuanced, much more subtle, and more interested in human psyche and human emotions than in advancing radical socialist agenda. If you summarize the plot of Tar in a couple of paragraphs, it's gonna look like an incredibly boring movie. That's probably what puts off a lot of people, and they choose a Scandinavian black comedy where people puke on the boat a lot. It tells the story of a world famous female conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic, Lydia Tarr, and focuses on the build up and the aftermath of the sex scandal and allegations of harassment. The film is also slightly disguised as a biopic. No, the character of Lydia Tarr is fictional. And it is 2.5 hours long. The film is so self important that it has almost 5 minutes of black screen in the beginning. And during the course of the film, people puke only once, and for about a second or two. Sounds like a monumental waste of time. But in fact, Tar is not boring at all. It is astonishingly well directed, well written, and yes, Kate Blanchett is absolutely incredible. It makes sense to compare Tar to Todd Field's debut, In the Bedroom, which became an instant classic right after its release in 2001. The plot of In the Bedroom is so minimalistic that you can fully explain the synopsis in under 10 seconds. But it is not about the plot per se, it's about human emotions. Mostly about human emotions. And Todd Field understands deeply how cinema works and how to make the audience feel and think. Now, more than 15 years after his previous film, Little Children, he does that again. It doesn't matter if you care about classical music or conductors in particular. Tar is about something else, and it is not about one thing, like power. It touches on many subjects and follows a very complicated and a very well thought character. The script also is much more complex than it seems at first glance. You actually might want to rewatch it and pick up the details you missed the first time, and come with new interpretations of what you've just seen. Because the film is absolutely open for interpretation. It provokes you to make your own conclusions, and it pretty much never tries to preach and sell you some cheap cannibalistic ideology, like Triangle of Madness, or stupid illogical banality, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is a work of a master, actually, more than one, and it is truly an amazing thing to watch how it all unfolds and how artistically ambitious, in a good way, this film actually is. You always know what's going on in this film, except you don't, because you're watching it through the eyes of only one character, Lydia Tarr. And in fact, she's not quite Lydia and not quite Tarr. And most probably, she's not quite many other things. That's one of the interpretations. This character has depth. At some point, you don't know where her imagination kicks in. You don't know some of the elements of her backstory. And you don't quite understand how everything could have looked like if you were watching all of this through somebody else's eyes. This film provokes conversations and analysis. This film will make you think over and over again after you finish watching it. This is a film you probably won't forget. So, what have we learned from Tar? You can make an interesting film about anything, if you know how. Sometimes ambiguity is the way to go. There might be dead people behind your back. we still don't know if we should separate Michael Jackson from his music. In the end, ignore the synopsis and the trailers. They can be a bit misleading. This is, to put it simply, a very, very restrained and very subtle Mulholland Drive. This is not the best analogy, but it sets you in a better frame of mind than the idea that you're dealing with a Me Too and cancel culture movie about classical musicians. You shouldn't overlook this film.